With that, I think we get to move on to the exciting agenda item of the night here. Our next agenda item is feedback on the bike-friendly community process after we applied. We got this great 5-page written feedback that was sent around and had some bold items and some other non-bold items and just a bunch of ideas of things we can do to keep stepping up our game. So Craig and Kevin, I guess you're going to walk through this some, and then we can have some discussion. And I'd kind of love to, in our discussion, get to hear from all the commission members about what are the items that really jumped out to you as the things that we could most tackle or that would make the most difference or that you're the most passionate about. So there's a ton of stuff to do here. I mean, we can't do it all at once, and some of it takes collaboration and partners, but I'd love from each person to hear what are the things that really strike you as opportunities for us to make a difference. So anyway, with that, Craig, if you want to introduce this one.
Good evening. So I'm Craig Schunkweiler, Assistant City Engineer, and this is Kevin Garcia here with the Planning Department. We thought we would go through these key points. We categorized about 27 of them, 27 comments. We'll kind of touch base kind of like at a 10,000 foot level. As we're going through it, though, I do think it's important if we can get feedback from the commission on, as Brandon said, really what are the really, from the commission's viewpoint, really critical items that we're touching on. As Brandon said, there are a lot of things that maybe we can't readily input, but or get to, but there are a lot in here that we can. So we thought we'd just go ahead and jump right into engineering. I guess since I'm an engineer, we'll take off with that. So, and what you'll see on the left is I've kind of basically highlighted in yellow all the key highlights, key points. In orange are the ones that they really encouraged us to focus in on. They're the bold items. So the first one was develop and implement a streetscape design guidelines. Like I said, this is a 10,000 feet overview. We got 27 comments to go through, but it looks like they're looking at, how do you basically have a comfortable, pleasant environment for pedestrians and cyclists. We do have some streetscape guidelines that Urbana has. I mean, certainly they could be polished up a little bit, but I think for the most part, when we can and funding does allow, we do provide for the aesthetic side of infrastructure improvements. Any questions? I guess as we go through, we'll just ask you. Any questions on that?
Don't our streetscaping design guidelines only apply in certain areas?
They do. And I mean, when we get into the outlying areas, a lot of times really there's not a lot of opportunities to put those in. When we get into the campus core or downtown, that's where you can really see the streetscape.
If we could look at a way of doing that for the streets that are the major streets, arterials and major collectors,
okay,
that probably would be what they were looking toward. I don't think they're talking about every residential street.
Okay.
That would be my personal interpretation of that.
Well, can I piggyback off of that? I mean, I feel like anytime we get out, we see people kind of breaking the law, crossing in places that are not safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that part of that is because that they're such unenjoyable. Is that a word? Like they're so unpleasant to walk there. It's so unpleasant to walk there that you're trying to get out of there as soon as possible. And I think that some of those places where we could make some of that improvement and make it more friendly to pedestrians and just enjoyable could be like with the development on Philo, with all of what's going on in, I forget the name of the area over by where the Walmart is, but people are walking there. There's a bus
High Cross
there.
Road.
Yeah, High Cross Road. Yeah, there's a lot going on there, but it is so desolate and ugh.
Mm-hmm.
North Lincoln is another area where we have a lot of crossing that occurs because of the high-density student housing that was built along there. But the road was designed it's a highway level design with high speeds and wide lanes. And so that's a balancing act for us to take a look at. It's also not a fun place to bicycle.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay. Those
there
are
I know
all
we have plans for High Cross Road to eventually have a side path,
right.
but I know we've got a multi-use path that's going to go on North Cunningham on one
Yes,
side and a
yes.
sidewalk on the other.
Yes.
But I don't think we have the equivalent on Lincoln, and I think there are also some issues with right-of-way
Right.
on Lincoln that make it difficult for us to do that. But those are all things I think we could take a look at.
Yeah, I would say Lincoln is another place that probably more so than any place I've seen people crossing in very dangerous places or ways. And it might be something that we can do as a city to encourage like groups, like adopt a highway. We could even adopt a garden or something like that. Or there's a lot of prairie people who are very excited about prairie restoration. So I feel that this is something that we can do as a community.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to point number 2. Require a mix of uses throughout the community or adopt a form or design-based code. I'll turn that over to Kevin.
I see Cynthia shaking her head no. I don't think that there are any plans on the, in the near future for community-wide form or design-based codes, which just as a really quick, synopsis of what those are is those would be codes that would replace the zoning code that would allow, or that are more based on form as opposed to based on your traditional zoning formulas and such. And they are more flexible types of codes. But in terms of what's on our radar for the near future, we do have in the downtown plan a recommendation that we should adopt design guidelines for downtown. And I do think that we will be getting those started within the next year or so. So that's where we stand with respect to form or design-based codes.
Okay.
I have a comment and
Yeah.
question about that. It seems that downtown is actually very pro mixed use. And I think maybe I'm not understanding their question, but I guess my concern about 2 was similar to point 1 in that we have a lot of new development that is not coded in a similar way where it's more friendly towards are having residential and commercial mixed. So anyway, I was thinking that it actually could be something that would be helpful for a lot of the new places. And I thought that some easy things that we could probably put in the code that might be helpful would be lighting. Just because there's different places that we've been building, but to get there, it's dark and desolate. And I just think, I was driving out towards High Cross Road once, and I had kids in the road, and I could not see them whatsoever. And so that's very unsafe. And but a natural way for the kids to get candy at that gas station there or what have you. So.
Yeah, that's good feedback. I think too, for us, I think the citywide form-based code thing probably doesn't make sense, but even just continuing to focus on contiguous development helps so that things will be walkable and bikeable, and it won't just be like leapfrog, development of, you got to go a mile on a rural road and then you get to the next neighborhood or something. So I think in our situation, we're focused a lot on that, and that'll help. Any other feedback on number 2? Okay.
Okay, point 3, moving briskly along. Point 3 is to ensure good connectivity of the street network by adopting connectivity policies or standards. I'm not sure that's been discussed at all anywhere, so this might be a good group to start with. But then again, I've only been here since June, so I don't know all the conversations that have gone on.
I think I'd like to request that at a future meeting we have a presentation on what other communities do with connectivity policies or standards. That has been an issue here. We have had some developments, for example, the Aldi, that not only didn't get connected, they built a wall. And so how could we address that kind of an issue for the future and have at least take a look at options for that? But, you know, that would be a long process to get that adopted.
Point 4 would be pass an ordinance that would require larger employers to provide shower and locker facilities.
Just very quickly, I know I've seen the draft ordinance, bike parking ordinance changes that have come from RPC as part of the much larger bicycle master plan, and they are recommending that we provide long-term bike parking as in addition to the short-term bike parking that we currently require. So that might be something that's coming sooner rather than later.
Okay.
I think for shower and locker facilities, I think that we might want to provide incentives, not requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should
Yeah.
say that we're talking about requiring long-term bike parking facilities, and then with respect to shower and locker facilities, that those would be incentivized as opposed to required.
Yeah.
Thank you
Okay.
for noticing that. Sure. And number 5 is to continue to increase the amount of high-quality bicycle parking throughout the community, particularly downtown. And again, with new standards that, well, at least they're suggesting in the bicycle master plan, and hopefully we'll be adopting standards that are similar. I think that will increase quality bicycle parking. We continue to replace older, non-recommended types of bicycle parking with recommended types. So I think we're doing well there.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, quite frankly, is a challenge. Continue to expand the bike network, especially north of University Avenue and along the arterials in partnership with the state DOT. You know, just the way the road network sits north of University is a challenge. You know, we have Cunningham Avenue that goes straight up through the heart of the north, and then to the east, there's really not good alternate roads to the east. To the west, there are some, and I know in the master plan there's been some talk. I haven't seen the final or any of the drafts yet, but talks of you know, making some additional bike routes to the west of Cunningham, or at least exploring that opportunity. Cunningham itself and University are challenged just because those roads are controlled by the Illinois Department of Transportation, and they have traditionally been resistant or not as quite as welcome to bike facilities on those roads. However, though, as was mentioned earlier, on Cunningham Avenue from basically Kenyon down to Perkins, we're looking at this year installing a sidewalk on one side and a multi-use path on the other side. So we are going to do, you know, some type of ped bike facility there. But, you know, when we talk about cycle tracks, we haven't really seen a chance or an opportunity. I know there was one sort of a quasi one that Cynthia's very familiar with on Wright Street that, you know, it had, you know, some mixed thoughts on that in the past, you know, as far as kind of like a cycle track with Wright.
We have
Buffered,
a substandard cycle track
Right.
on part of
Right.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
Buffered bike lanes, there could be opportunities for that. You know, I think, again, you know, it comes down to a space issue, you know, there. If we can do it, we would certainly try to implement that. So, I mean, we're certainly open to that. And then of note here, you know, too, is the 10-foot wide shared use paths, at least on some part of that system. So I think number 6 is a challenge, but I do think that, you know, with time, perhaps the Department of Transportation begins to become a little bit more open to these things. I do think it's worthwhile to mention in the master plan that, you know, there's a desire or need, because that can help when we do contact our DOT officials.
Yeah. definitely.
I think the MCOR project provides us with an opportunity to address some of those issues. Part of the team are some of the leading national experts on bicycle infrastructure design from T.Y. Lin that have implemented a number of different kinds of infrastructure in Chicago, because we've got densities of pedestrians, bicyclists, and buses on campus that are equivalent to Chicago, certainly during class change times. So I think that we have to take a look at those as part of that project while we have that expertise there to help us take a look at those options. So we may be able to address some of those through that project, which without the funding to completely redo the streets and widen some of the locations we couldn't have done before. So I think it's something that we'll be looking at in some of the locations. Cunningham is a different issue, and we'll have to, as you say, gradually address those as we move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering what opportunities there are to engage IDOT, or maybe even get the bike league's help in engaging IDOT. I mean, I know even 10 years ago, I can't believe it's been 10 years, when I started on city council, the conversation was like, well, the IDOT folks aren't, even though some of these treatments are now in AASHTO or now are more standard, that IDOT isn't comfortable with them. And or maybe it's just Region 5 or whatever it was, like, well, Chicago can do it, and Chicago has their own DOT and isn't quite under IDOT, and you know, and some of the other IDOT regions are more progressive about this, but our region, we just can't even consider this kind of stuff. And 10 years have gone by, but is there any help maybe the Bike League can give us, or any other strategic way we can somehow engage IDOT far in advance? I mean, we don't have any specific project right now, but start to have the conversation about, hey, what of these treatments are other regions using, or what are these treatments are, you know, can we start to consider? I don't know. Could LAB help, or is there any angle to come at it that could at least start the conversation?
I think you've got some good points there. I mean, I think that, you know, when you have to keep knocking on the door. I do think that if we can, you know, I will tell you that I've sat down with IDOT officials and federal highway officials, and they do view that Urbana is very progressive. You know, and obviously, I mean, we're a gold level facility in Illinois, the first. So they're, you know, really we lead by example, and we're showing them that things can be done that they perhaps didn't think could be done. Now, whether or not that translates into Cunningham Avenue, I don't know about that. But I think that by leading by example, you unlock the door a little bit, or you know, instead of maybe kicking it open, you're unlocking it a little bit. And
yeah.
But I think, yeah, the league could help. I think continued dialogue can help. I will tell you, as an engineer, you know, the profession gets a lot of knock on it because we're viewed as being not so open to these things. But you have to understand that we come from a licensing perspective, that we're looking at safety as a primary, you know, way of doing things. When I first got into it 20 years ago, you would have never thought to put bicyclists on the road. Matter of fact, I had predecessors of mine that said, absolutely not, you wouldn't do that. But as we've shifted through our, you know, my mindset, now I'm fully embracing it and open to it, and you know, and that's a credit to the people that came before me that helped build this network, and the council too, that you know, that led us along. And I think if we keep doing that, that helps. But I think we have to keep going and talking to IDOT and seeing if we can show them ways. And you know, I think too, it's sort of like the roundabout situation. Wisconsin leads that for some reason or another. The Department of Transportation in Illinois isn't so open to that. But what you do see is that change happens through time, with individuals being replaced by other individuals, and that's when you have to seize that opportunity.
Yeah, I like the keep knocking on the door thing. I think you're right. We just have dialogue. Cynthia?
The new director of the Illinois Department of Transportation was the director of the MPO in Chicago. And so I think that there is potentially an opportunity there for some changes in culture and approach based on that leadership. But of course, that remains to be seen. It is a rather large institution.
Yeah.
But standards are changing, because if you look at safety, the engineering profession has come to recognize that slowing traffic and providing for all roadway users does increase safety. But I probably am older than Craig, and when I took graduate coursework in transportation engineering, pedestrians were something to be kept off of the roadway. Bicyclists were not even mentioned, and transit had a small chapter. And so that's what this generation of engineers learned. And so it's been a process of changing that, as the data has shown that that's not the best way to build safe roads.
Another point is when there are improvements to key IDOT routes, they'll hold typically a public meeting. It's very important for the public to come out at that meeting to voice their comments. I will even tell you, with our organization, sometimes we've become, as a society, public doesn't come out as often. I don't know if we have so much going on, we're very busy, but we want to hear the comments, and I think that is one of the key components. And sometimes people just don't show up, and they need to show up. So those are very important meetings to be at. When IDOT announces their 5-year plan, or they have these meetings out at the county highway building, that's very important to show up at there and begin to ask those questions.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, any other comments on number 6 there?
So number 7, basically, we're looking at the connection between the local and regional trail network and street network. Here's the great thing with this is that Regional Plan Commission is doing our master plan, and they're also doing the rails or the trails plan for the Urbana Park District. So now you have the chance for coordination between the two entities, between the two sets of plans, and I think you're going to see that when we review the master plan.
Okay.
8,
Great.
we've talked about that challenge with Cunningham Avenue, and again, we're looking at putting some sidewalks on Cunningham, north of Perkins or Country Club Road, and a multi-use path. 9, build out the Kickapoo Trail. The city itself doesn't have as much to do with that. A lot of that trail is outside of the city limits, but we have recognized that it's important, once it's within the city limits, to get it to key pieces like perhaps a trailhead at Weaver Park. And that's another challenge just because of the built environment that's there. But I think you're going to see in the master plan some emphasis on that, and I think there's also going to have to be some further study to get that trailhead in and that connectivity. But I think that the city's certainly open to it. Again, funding becomes an issue. But
Yeah. Cynthia?
The Greenways and Trails Plan has in there a railroad path, and it shows the railroad spur over here as a connection to the Kickapoo Trail. And I think that's something that we should keep trying to accomplish. As we know, that can be a long and frustrating process, but I think that's something that we should continue do, because not very many people are willing to bicycle on University Avenue, and to get to the Kickapoo Trail, there are fewer options than we would like, and I think the railroad right-of-way is a really good one.
Okay. Number 10, develop a system of bicycle boulevards. I know the Regional Plan Commission is investigating this in the master plan. There may be one particular location that shows up in the master plan as something that we might be able to try. I think, again, this is kind of a baby step type of thing, but I think we're open to it. I'm not sure if we have the locations that really fit it, But again, I think this is a start.
Mm-hmm.
11, though, which is an installation of a bicycle wayfinding system, though, I think is something that we do have funding identified for that. I'm in the process of closing out an advertisement for an engineering position, and I'd love to put that person in charge of this wayfinding system. I know it's going to be addressed in the master plan. There will be some recommendations on signage there, and it may be a multi-year, but I'm confident that we'll be able to get some type of bicycle wayfinding system in place.
Mm-hmm. Question.
Have we done any research on this up to this point? Because my thought was there are so many free resources out there right now. Like with Google, I can map when the bus is going to show up and time everything out. And so have we investigated some of the free and more and very accessible tools out there so that people could map their way to work? Or do you know what I'm saying?
Well, when I speak of a wayfinding system, I'm thinking more of a traditional signage system. And that's what's going to come out in the master plan is a set of recommended signage, maybe directing you to downtown Urbana and then, to other areas. And I think, though, we'll be coming back to the commission and discussing this in greater detail. Now, with respect to something a little bit more advanced, no, we haven't done any research on that.
I'm
I mean, as
curious
far as
if
like
it might actually even already be done, because I don't know if MTD put in a ticket to have Google have this a part of their mapping. But
Yes, MTD has partnered with Google to have the transit routes on there. And you can do bike routes on there now, but this is talking about a signage system that is on the roadway that gives you destinations and either distance
And
or
distances,
time
yeah.
to
Okay.
destinations, which, since we have a large part of the community that may not be operating with smartphones, provides a free and inexpensive way for them to find their way around.
Okay.
thank you.
So 12 is create a maintenance program that includes regular cleaning, repair, and snow removal for the bicycle and pedestrian network. For a large part within Public Works, we do regularly sweep the bicycle lanes. We really don't view them as any different than any other component of the road. Same thing with repairing the road. And then the snow removal, if the bicycle lane is, for instance, on Washington Street, they do plow a curb to curb, which includes the bicycle lanes. I do note they say the current path and sidewalk snow removal policy presents a serious obstacle to year-round travel by a bicycle. I would agree with that. I mean, we have a lot of snow and it's difficult. It really comes down to, on our side, on the public works side, is funding.
Mm-hmm.
Time for a snow angel program.
Yes, and I did finally start contacting council members about getting that scheduled so we can do the presentation that we asked for. And so I think next I will talk with the mayor's office too about scheduling that. So I know we had talked about that a lot in December.
13 is basically make intersections safer and more comfortable for cyclists. Now, within this document it said, especially for the intersection of Lincoln and Vine, which doesn't exist, but
Yeah.
we did find out from the league that what they really meant was the intersections along Lincoln and the intersections along Vine, which is quite an arduous task. They also mention ensure that bicycles are detected by traffic signals, and then they give the example of Goodwin, in University Avenue. Now, so backing up here, within Public Works, when we do a roadway improvement or an intersection improvement, we do take into account, particularly if there's a bike lane, and we did this at Goodwin and Green, we do put in detector loops. We did that downtown at Main and Broadway and Main and Race. So we do that. We are now looking at a thermal imaging system that we installed at Philo and Florida. And then we're also looking at that at Race and Windsor and Race and Philo. So or race in Windsor and Philo in Windsor. So whenever we can do that, we do, as far as on the engineering side, we do try to look at advanced ways to handle bicyclists. The NACTO guide is referenced in here, and the ASHTO guide. Those both are basically our Bibles as designers. So we do follow the NACTO. You'll see some of the treatments around town that kind of mirror some of those. Keep in mind that some of the bicycle facility design nationwide is still really relatively in its infancy. So, you know, and we're open to trying new things, and like I said, we're a progressive city, so we do look at pushing the edge here as long as we feel it's a safe way of designing.
Any comments on 13? Okay, great. That was the engineering section.
Can you give me a break?
Sure. All right, so point number 14, and Cynthia, since you're the Safe Routes to School person here, maybe you want to chime in here, but it suggests that we consider the online bike safety quiz from the League of Illinois Bicyclists in our Safe Routes to School curriculum. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that we could use that appropriately in the middle school program that we have done, but I think it is not designed for grade school kids. We would have to work with them to design something that was more to grade level for the younger kids. Our grant has been approved, but we have not gotten final approval from IDOT, and I do not know what our new governor's edict on reviewing grant contracts has done to our funding. I've been intending to call our IDOT representative and try and find out. We certainly hope to have that funding and do the after-school programming again this next fall that we did previously with the SPLASH program through the schools. And I can talk some more about that farther down and when it mentions stuff again.
Okay. Thanks, Cynthia. Point number 15 is to offer educational bicycle programs more frequently and to a broader range of individuals. I'm not sure how much we offer those programs. So if anybody can speak to that, I don't know.
I can speak to that. Our Safe Routes to School grant, one of the things that we included in there, we had originally asked for funding to do walking school bus training. We submitted it so long ago that we didn't know that doing it once was going to be plenty for us. We don't need to do it again. So I asked them in our new grant if we could use that to do training to have more league cycling instructors certified through the League of American Bicyclists in our community, and they said that wasn't a problem as long as we're continuing to use it for education. So the plan is that we will use some of that funding to provide scholarships for people who would like to go through. And under announcements, I'm going to talk about, we have a Traffic Skills 101 class scheduled for May 9th. You have to successfully complete that class and pass both the written quiz and the on-bike skills component to go on to the league cycling instructor training, which is a 2.5-day training, and it's a $300 registration fee, which can prohibit some people from participating. And I've been talking with people at the national level about how you do scholarships successfully. And so we are hoping to do that this fall, to bring a league cycling instructor training here. And one of the things that I finally came to understand in working with the Park District is that their staff don't do the bike education classes. They look for people to come and do them, and they pay them. And so we need a bigger supply of people who are interested in teaching those classes through the Park District on a regular basis. And that would give us the opportunity to offer some regular classes for adults and also for kids, and to help the Park District to have that incorporated into their summer camps with students. And we are then also working with the schools. One of the other goals is to have the schools have some staff that are trained and certified as instructors, so that they can have that ongoing. The whole goal is to create some sustainability in our education program locally. So those are options, and perhaps the city could contemplate if there are staff at the city that you would like to have certified as instructors, so that you have that option. And some of the members here, some of whom work for the school district, might think about whether they have time to come or not. And so those are all things that are currently being discussed and planned and trying to develop and put forward.
Yeah, I think this one to me is all about collaboration with, and it takes time to build these programs with the park district and school district and whatnot, but it's the only way to really reach the population. Carrie?
It looks like you get down to it in point 16, and since we kind of already brought up education, do you mind if we go there?
No, go for it.
Okay, so my husband has called the principal at the high school and asked about making bike safety training a part of their driver's ed, which has been encouraging some talk between us about maybe potentially like it being something that we should maybe write for a bill, because it's kind of funny that we don't train our drivers to handle bicyclists, and you come up with some very aggressive situations because people don't know what to do with a biker. And so it might be something bigger than just us to implement. So far, there is room in the class for that, and there's nothing against teaching bike safety in the driver's ed class. But I don't know that in the time frame that they teach the class that they're going to see that as important. 'Cause it's pretty much left up to the teacher. So do you have a point on that, Audrey?
Yeah, there's a bill apparently in the state legislature right now to incorporate motorcycle safety and awareness into driver's ed. And it was just on the news this morning. So it seems like there'd be an opportunity there to include bicycles in that.
Yeah, I heard that on WILL's coverage this morning. And yeah, that was a surprise to me, because what percentage of the population ever rides a motorbike?
Well,
Probably a lot fewer than ever get on a bicycle out in the streets. And it was like, gee, I can't believe they have a state law requiring motorcycle education be part, and not even.
Oh no, it was awareness of how to handle motorcycles if you're
Okay.
a driver.
Okay.
I don't think
Okay.
it was how to be a motorcyclist.
Okay.
I think it was awareness of,
Okay.
of
More about how to be a
motorcycles.
driver and
Yes,
walk out for
and I was very
motorcyclists.
surprised that they did not mention bicycles in
Yeah.
there, because it was a natural
It
place
might be
to put it, I thought.
It might be something to consider. How to share the road is being some
Yeah.
part of our driver's education course, and potentially something that should be tested
Well,
when people get their driver's license.
I wonder if there's a way for us to send a letter of support or something asking that that bill include bicyclists.
Yeah.
Cynthia, you had your hand up too. Do you know anything about this bill?
I
Or-
don't know. I mean, the bill was just introduced. I do know that we do require there to be bicycle questions included in our driver's license quizzes, but I don't think that has a huge impact. But that is a step that has already occurred.
Huh.
What I will say is the League of Illinois Bicyclists created videos specifically for driver's ed and sent them to every driver's education program in the state several years ago. But I do not think they have been used. So that's something that we can talk with the Urbana School District about. The quiz also is easily adapted for use in driver's education curriculum and classes. And my understanding is most of those driver's ed teachers appreciate someone offering to come and provide presentations on these topics. And so it may just be an issue of further discussion, both between the city and the school district and the local Champaign County Bikes, because there are people, I think, who would be willing to go and make those presentations with the driver's education classes. So I think that opportunity and the materials are there. I think it's a question of utilization.
Mm-hmm.
My personal goal is to see bicycle education, on-bike education taught throughout K through 12 at some point in the future. But that's a long-term goal. And meanwhile, the steps that you're taking along with people working at it from other angles, I think is a good goal. But I agree. I think it would be good to ask that bill to be expanded to sharing the road and awareness of motorcyclists, bicyclists, and pedestrians.
Yeah. Does someone here want to either volunteer to try emailing or calling the bill sponsor's office, or emailing the LIB folks and asking, hey, Bike League, you probably heard about this bill. Have you thought about...
I would contact Ed Barsati.
Okay. Is
I
somebody
think we
want
have
to...
someone in the audience with their hand raised.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we have a volunteer from the audience who's willing to check on this.
Very easy. We asked Scott Bennett,
That's true.
Tom Bennett's nephew. Tom Bennett from Gibson City is the one who's sponsoring that change. We asked Scott Bennett and Carol Ammons, of course.
Okay. Okay. So...
So I think it'd be very appropriate for you to have a resolution encouraging the city council to pass it on.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely something we could do as a simple resolution of support for that kind of thing. Okay, so Charlie, by raising your hand, you've volunteered to talk to somebody about this, and okay, great.
But we need a resolution.
Yeah, I would like to make a resolution in support of adding sharing the road with bicycles onto the bill, or sharing with,
And pedestrians.
and pedestrians, yeah.
Okay, great. Any suggestions or comments? Yeah, I think this is something simple we can take a vote on and ask City Council to, consider a simple resolution of support that they would sign. And
I'll second it.
okay, seconded by Cynthia. Any other comments on this? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, cool. So that's a recommendation to City Council, and we'll, Charlie can help be the conduit. Yeah, good. Okay, that was all about number 16 there. Let's keep plowing ahead.
Keep going. 17 is to participate in the League of Illinois Bicyclists Mayor's Bike Safety Challenge.
My guess is Ms. Hoyle has some information on this. I know I got an email from you the other day about it. Is that right?
Well, that was
That
a
was the
national.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
tried to
we might
look
as well
up-
go for national.
I looked up the Illinois, I couldn't find it, but I did find the national.
Yeah, I am actually not aware of Illinois having a specific program, but there is the national one, and I think that we could certainly take a look at that.
So basically, it's a challenge to improve bike safety nationwide. They're asking all the mayors to basically make proclamations and designate that this is an important thing to address.
Could we get something like that before the city council during Bike Month?
Okay, Charlie's written that one down too. Great. Okay. Bike to Work Day will come up in the beginning of May, right? So we have a few weeks to figure that out. Okay.
Okay, number 18 is a suggestion to provide regular education and updates for local officials.
Yeah, on a comment on that, I mean, I think the times that experts have come from out of town and spoken, and we've had these breakfasts or get-togethers, or invite elected officials or plan commission members to come and have a quick educational sort of moment. I think those are great, and just hearing from other cities' perspectives and outside expertise gives it some gravitas. So.
They're recommending we do one every year on Bike to Work Day. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, number 19, this is on to the encouragement section. They suggest promoting cycling throughout the year by offering or supporting community and charity rides, free bike valet parking, and bicycle-themed festivals, parades, or shows, such as the planned Open Streets event. How did they know that we were planning an Open Streets event? I don't know, but we have an Open Streets event coming, and Cynthia and I are on the executive committee helping to move that along.
Great.
I've got the flyer pulled up. I was going to talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
under announcements, unless you want to do
Okay.
it now.
No, we can
Okay.
defer point
Okay.
19 and that part of point 19 to later.
Okay, great.
Okay, and number 20 is to expand the bike sharing system. I think I made a note. I said we have a bike sharing system, ?
Yeah, I didn't know we
but
had one to expand, but okay.
But yeah, that's okay. I'm on a task force with members of the City of Champaign, the U of I, Champaign Urbana Public Health District, and the MTD. And we've got a task force that's looking into the feasibility of bike sharing, and looking at it from a more of a regional perspective than just looking at one city or the university doing it alone. And I think we're making good progress with that. So I can probably report to BPAC in the next couple months on the goings on with that group. So that could be an agenda item coming up.
That would be excellent.
Yeah.
Question about
Yeah.
that. Is it just a company who would have that? Like, I'm thinking, isn't it like the
Like
car
Alta
sharing?
or like...
Yeah.
It depends.
Yep.
Depends.
That's yes.
That's part of what you all are discussing, right?
We've been talking
Yeah.
about bike sharing since 2009. So,
And nobody wants
Yeah.
to make any money on that?
well, it's
I
not a
don't know if
money-making
it makes much,
proposition by
yeah.
and large is the issue. It's something that usually requires some subsidy. And the primary beneficiary in the community as an institution is really the university. And funding from the university has not been readily forthcoming for this activity, but the students passed a fee last fall for bicycle support that has to go through a process, and we have to figure out how we could partner and to create a community bike share system, because their fees are supposed to support campus things. But I think that there are ways, and there are a variety of systems that can be utilized. So it's
Yeah.
it's been another rapidly expanding field in terms of the technology and options.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's exciting though. So
Yeah, well,
stay,
we will
stay
look
tuned.
forward to a report about that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Point number 21 is to encourage more local businesses to seek recognition through the Bicycle Friendly Business Program. The note that I made on that one was, well, first I was asking how could we actually do that? How could we encourage that? But also I think maybe Cynthia mentioned the concept of a bicycle-friendly downtown or bicycle-friendly
business
district.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's something that would be worthwhile to pursue, especially because then we could say, hey, we met this point that you asked us to meet, but we went above and beyond and created a whole new designation.
I think if we could offer support to businesses, presentations on becoming a bicycle-friendly business, if the city's economic development folks could work with the Urbana Business Association and offer people assistance and mentoring. It's actually very easy application. It's not like bicycle-friendly community or bicycle-friendly university. It's much easier application. And the people who have applied, I think all the businesses that have applied locally have been successful. I do not know of one that has not. In Urbana, we have Common Ground is a bicycle-friendly business. Champaign Cycle is. Neutral Cycle is. They do have a shop in Urbana. Their main one then is in Champaign. And CUMTD is a silver bicycle-friendly business. The city could certainly apply to be a bicycle-friendly business and encourage other local businesses to apply. And then if the downtown, and I think Matt would be a big a big fan of looking at a bicycle-friendly business. How would we do that? But we need, I think, to work with UBA.
Mhm.
I have flyers.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question about it? For a business to be bike friendly, especially if it's like somebody downtown, could be like putting up a rack so people can hang their helmet? Like, what would it? What would they do?
They have to provide some support for their employees to bicycle to and from work, support community events, provide bicycle parking, showers, those kinds of things. The Urbana School District could look at becoming, or a school could look at becoming a bicycle-friendly business. Business makes you think it's only for profit, and that's not true. It's for anything that's not, a public entity, basically. And so there is an online a little sort of quiz you can take before you make an application to see, are you ready? And it goes through and has you look at the various things that you can do. And I think business that's interested in it could easily accomplish it.
I wonder if we could start, rather than like an ice bucket challenge, like have businesses challenge each other to install showers. I don't know,
Or provide access.
Or share.
They can also do things like make a deal with the fitness center for their employees to be able to use the showers and lockers there. Those sort of reciprocal arrangements are. And I don't think the businesses in downtown are going to maybe provide outdoor parking. They might be able to provide indoor parking. People can bring bikes in, but we've got a lot of outdoor parking. We don't have a lot of protected or covered parking. That's something that we're really low in that we need to address, and businesses could help with that. And Common Ground did. They helped bring the covered bike parking over to Lincoln Square.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, the recommendations for some of that longer term bike parking that will come out of the bicycle master plan. But those requirements are only going to be for new developments or for significant redevelopment of properties. So if we could somehow just encourage existing businesses to create some of that long-term bike parking, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They only had one recommendation for enforcement, and that was to pass additional ordinances that protect cyclists, such as passing laws, making it illegal to harass cyclists, and ensuring that law enforcement receive training on any of these new laws. I don't know where the enforcement side or where that stands, but that's certainly something to look into.
Yeah, I was curious if there is an ordinance.
Not that I know of, Craig.
Should we ask the?
The only thing I'm aware of is what the state law, where you have to at least give
3 feet passing.
Right, we have a 3-foot passing law. We could, as a city, pass a vulnerable roadway user ordinance, but it would only apply within the city of Urbana.
And that would
can
do
get
what?
confusing. Well, what that has done, and that was what our state's attorney tried to get passed through the state legislature, would be that if someone hits a bicyclist and it's the motorist's fault, that there's an additional additional fine that is incurred, and an additional charge that can be put on the motorists for having hit, and it would apply to pedestrians and bicyclists, that most crashes are not accidents. They are a result of someone doing something that was unsafe. And so some states have vulnerable roadway user laws, and they tried to get one passed here because it's very difficult to prosecute successfully with a jury charges against motorists when they hit bicyclists. And this has come up every time we've had a fatal crash here. It's a real sore point that motorists they can only apply certain fines to them most of the time for hitting and killing pedestrians and bicyclists. And people don't feel that that is fair, but it's partly a result of the way the laws and ordinances are set up.
Should we potentially recommend to, like, who would make that ordinance? Would it be council?
I think it's something we would need to study. It's not a simple proposition. City attorney would want to be involved in law enforcement because they're the ones who then have to enforce those laws. And then there's the issue also of when it goes into the judicial system. And so how do you set it up? If it's a city fine? And, we could set it up the same way that we did our tickets for bicyclists, that it's only a city ordinance, but we did that in conjunction with the city of Champaign and the university so that it was consistent across the community.
Yeah.
It gets confusing when we are the only ones who do it, but those are all things we could talk about.
Yeah, this one seems a little tricky, but it would I guess be interesting if we do decide we want to spend time on it to at least know if the Bike League has any model ordinances or any guidance on other jurisdictions that have done it. But yeah, I think it is a tricky one that we'd have to definitely work with legal and work with police and talk about, does it make any sense for us to do it if Champaign doesn't, or can we be consistent? And so, anyway.
I do like the idea, though, of making some kind of law for the protection of vulnerable people, like the kids and bikers. And I mean, especially at the university after everything that happened on Lincoln, I feel like some people feel that justice wasn't served in this situation, and I feel like that might be something that we can pick up or in some way.
Yeah.
Okay, so under evaluation and planning, number 23, hire a part-time bicycle and pedestrian coordinator. I think staff's all for this.
Yeah. I think everybody is. It's always been a matter of funding and also cross-jurisdictional collaboration of like,
Yeah.
gee, should we all chip in and this person should, live at the county? Or, how do we get the university and Champaign on board so that it's not just us in a silo, but so that somebody's helping like run these programs across all our jurisdictions? And that's just the trick of how we have to someday hopefully pull this off and make it happen. But
I think you've hit on it, though. I think a cross jurisdictional coordinator could be the greatest chance where not one entity's got to fund a part-time or full-time coordinator, but you share the cost. And they're looking basically at the whole network, both Champaign-Urbana and the university as well.
yeah.
So number 24, ensure that there's a dedicated funding, basically source for the implementation of the bike plan and regular maintenance costs or needs. Well, the good thing there is we do budget in our capital improvement program annually for signing and pavement marking. And we did fund the master plan update. So, I think with council's help, there is, it is a priority to fund. We do fund our infrastructure projects through our other funding sources, and we do look at complete streets when we do design those improvements. So, I think for the most part we're there. We could always use more funding, but given what the situation we have financially, I think we're doing fairly well.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's especially been great that we've budgeted in the CIP for regular maintenance and restriping and all that, so that stuff that's built isn't just going to crumble, but get maintained. So
right, and that would be where the wayfinding funding would be also.
Yeah.
On there. Number 25, This is a new one for me. Ensure that your bicycle counts capture the gender of cyclists. But I looked it up a little bit, and I'm sure Cynthia's got some thoughts on this. But it seems like evidently there's a gender gap between the use of bicycle facilities. And when I say it's new for me as an engineer, we see on the roadway side, we've seen a trend, a shift in designing our roads more for an aging population. And in turn, with evidently for the women, we don't separate women drivers out, but evidently for the bicyclists, there may be some need. I don't know if Cynthia has some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I have a presentation that I could do at one of our future meetings on the gender difference between men and women. There's in this country, there's a huge gap, like 3 to 1, and in other countries, they've evened that out. And the research that's been done sort of details what it is women are looking for to make those sorts of mode shifts. And so I could do that and provide you with some more information on that. And there's also, a lot of, like they say, they've got a link here to the League of American Bicyclists website that offers information as well. But I'd be happy to do that, update my presentation and do it. I haven't done it in a couple of years.
Yeah. I think just getting us all educated would be excellent if you're willing to give that presentation.
Yeah, and I think, as far as on the designing, that would certainly sensitize us to women's needs. And if it's easy to implement, we could certainly do that.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Do we have any information as to our gender bicyclists?
I asked Regional Planning Commission. They do have bike counts, but they don't separate out gender. And quite frankly, the bike counts are fairly limited. They've just recently started with this new update, counting, but they didn't separate out gender.
It might be something gender. I know they're bringing up the gender gap, but also kids, and that I wonder if there would be different ways we would look at roads that are predominantly kids using.
Mm-hmm. I think there's some good thoughts here that we can certainly get better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just something. We're still doing counts, I'm assuming.
Right.
Would it be impossible to do that, to start asking or to document how many of these bicyclists are kids or women or men?
I would have to talk to Regional Planning Commission on how their counting method is. If they use some type of equipment or machine, it may not separate because it's some type of mechanism. If it's actually somebody actually observing counts, or if it's surveys, then maybe we could ask them to do that.
Yeah.
That kind of leads into 26, which is evaluate bicycle crash stats, and then reduce the number of crashes in the community. We will see in the master plan some crash data, some identification of high accident locations. They won't be recommending treatments for that, but that's also part of our city staff will be evaluating those on a case-by-case basis.
The Regional Planning Commission has eco counters, which are the pneumatic tubes. They also have the cameras. The problem on the cameras is to process the data is expensive. So there's an opportunity there for the city to partner with them to do more data collection. And you can also do manual counts and train volunteers to do counts. And the first counts that we did were actually done that as part of a national count day, and we trained volunteers and did some counts several years ago. So those are opportunities for us. And then I think in the surveying that they did for the bike plan, they identified gender, didn't they?
I'm thinking you're correct. I think.
Yeah, and so I think that asking people for information is another opportunity. So there's observation. Right. There's surveying, and then there's the camera counting, but that is an expensive proposition, and the city might have to put some money toward that.
Okay.
So the last point is number 27, basically establish a mechanism that ensures the bicycle facilities and programs are implemented in all traditionally underserved neighborhoods. I know that within the master plan they were looking at total road connectivity. There was a lot of focus in the master plan on underserved areas. There were actually public meetings held in those areas too.
Yeah.
And I actually think it might have been you, Brandon, that mentioned that collectively overall, I think though our network is fairly robust and we're within blocks of all the major generators and neighborhoods, too. I think I remember you saying that overall. So, I mean, I think we're making some headway there.
Yeah.
And as we continue to build out the network, we'll close those gaps.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like in our current plan, this got a good focus.
In the last bits, they talk about costs, they talk about federal funding, state funding, local funding, and things like that. We won't really get into that, but we're, as a city staff, we're always looking for ways to, help bridge that gap between what we have and what we need to do. But they have one thing that of note in this document. This is a scanned document because I highlighted all these points, but in here there's underlined areas. Within the original PDF there's actually links to suggested websites, like this Find It Funded tool. They've got a report or online tool on state funding. So there's a lot of nice things that they provide to us, resources that we'll be able to expand and try to understand to see where we can get additional funding, or through these 27 points, most of them do have a set of links that we can, basically learn and understand.
I have a
Great.
question about the local funding. There's this one part where it talked about, for example, if there's any existing road projects, it's usually cheaper to add bike lanes and sidewalks. Is this something that we can add into, and my little window won't open up anymore. Oh, there it is. That we can add into like an ordinance, like if a new street is being paved, that if it is meant to carry X amount of cars, that it would by law be required to then have space for the bike lanes, or would then be required to have substantial lighting for pedestrians, or I don't know, something like that we could just write that from here on out when we are building new things we can.
Well, I think from staff perspective, we actually, our edict from the top down, and it starts with council, is and then it goes through our public works director is and the community development director, is that we actually do any new project that we do, or any resurfacing or rehab project, we do look at the master plan, and if there are a way to implement that, we do that. So that document is a document that is something that we seriously consult. It's not something that sits on a shelf and we don't ever get it out. We do get it out. Now, the limitations of implementation of some of these things might be, if it's a multi-use path, but we have a road falling apart, we may not put the multi-use path in with it, and that's just because of money. It really comes down to that. But this year, when you look around town, all the resurfacing that we did, a lot of it was tied in with either a bike route or bike lanes or the such. So, I think you could say that we could have an ordinance or a law, but really it comes down to leadership within the city and how they implement the master plan. And I think for the most part, we do a pretty good job, and that's why we have a fairly decent, robust, built-out network, and we're going to continue to do better.
Yeah. I
We
guess
have a complete streets policy.
Right.
The city operates under a policy to build streets that accommodate all roadway users.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like we're doing pretty well at that when construction happens, we'll take the opportunity to get the sidewalk fixed or add bike lanes. And in new developments, there's, like I remember when the Menards development was being discussed, of how the street layout would be there if that happens on High Cross Road. For new developments, all the guidelines that community development staff have to follow also have sidewalk requirements and connectivity requirements built in. So that's already kind of in the law too. areas of totally new development that are happening. So, so I feel like on that we're actually doing a good job. Yeah.
So, you know, in the end here, this is a pretty good document. I mean, it gives us, you know, some further feedback from just what, you know, we received in the fall. And, you know, I think it's, you know, probably now would be maybe digest it a little bit more, think about it. Particularly if there are things that, you know, new ideas that, you know, we're always looking for that. You know, and priorities. Of course, we'll get a lot of our direction from council, but and from you folks too. You know, so be thinking about that. This whole document. Do take the time to, you know, read through it and
Yeah.
give us your thoughts.
Cool. I was wondering before we go if people are willing to go around and share, like, what are your one or two favorite of all these things, the things that really you feel like could add the most impact or that you're passionate about. I don't know, Carrie, if you're willing to go first, we could just go around, and I'm just curious to hear what commission members feel like of all of them. If you could wave a magic wand and make one happen, what would it be? One or two?
Why don't you start?
Okay, I can start. Yeah, okay. For me, the one about bike boulevards is really interesting. If we can try that new kind of treatment here and figure out where it might be appropriate, it's a different opportunity to get people on a quiet, safe street from point A to point B. And the other one for me would be the hire a part-time bike and ped coordinator. If we can figure out how agencies can split that cost and put a little bit of money into a bucket to hire a part-time person that works across agencies, that would just be awesome. Those are my two. Carrie?
I think I like the bike sharing piece. If we could get that done, I think that would be really exciting, and I think that would be well used, especially among students. I've lived in college towns that had these, and it was nice when you're coming from out of the area to have bikes ready. Even for our residents, like, you have commencement coming up, and my husband and our family were talking about, well, wouldn't it be so fun to have all of our family get a bike and we can take them around town on like a bike tour through the prairie and through the school, and they don't live they're not around here, so having rented bikes would be great. So
Yep.
Neutral Cycle rents bikes.
Thank you.
Ah.
Did you hear that?
Neutral Cycle
They
will
do
rent
rent bikes, yeah.
bikes. Okay, good to know.
Rent your bike early.
Okay, Audrey, any favorites from you?
Well, I like the thought about education. One thing I just wanted to mention is we sort of threw PED in there too, but I think, you know, in the context of motorcycles, probably pedestrians don't fit in with the driver education, putting bikes in. Because I know I had a online defensive driving course in which I thought bicyclists would be covered under slow-moving vehicles. They had slow-moving, but they were covered under pedestrians, which seemed like a strange place to suddenly throw them in, as if they were kind of just an alternative family grouping on the sidewalk kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I really like the education, and because I think that's a big factor in why women maybe aren't bicycling as much as the harassment, the fact that you do have to stop and educate drivers almost at every stop sign or what have you. It can be a bit intimidating.
Cynthia?
I'm with you. I think having a coordinator would be really helpful, someone who is in charge of doing that. And there are a couple of others that I feel really strongly about, the maintenance program and the snow removal, and also the interconnection of the system so that we have a complete system. And I think those are things that we're continuing to work toward. I don't think the part-time coordinator's currently on the plan of things to do next, and so maybe we can encourage that.
Cool. Okay, and Craig, you're officially a commission member, so I'm curious if you have any one or two favorites too. If you had a magic wand, and if cost was not an issue, what would you do?
I think have a safe network and a connected network
Yeah.
would be, the best that we can. I do think the low-hanging fruit for me is, or me and my staff, is probably the wayfinding signage. I think
Yeah.
that's probably the most exciting thing that we can,
Yeah.
I didn't
immediately.
mention that because we're already going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
That'll-
huge.
And then I think looking at intersections, how we can make those safer and better for bicyclists is probably a high priority too.
Cool. Okay, excellent discussion. Any final thoughts on this before we move on?
Well, yes, I just want to say how truly thrilled and impressed I am that we became the first gold level community, and it's credit to all of the people who have worked hard for a lot of years and the leadership that we've had. If we didn't have leadership at the council level, we couldn't have gotten this far. It just doesn't happen without that. When you're fighting against the leadership, it makes it extremely difficult to succeed. So the fact that we have leadership at all levels and a lot of people working on it, I just
Yeah.
say rah, rah.
Yeah, congratulations to Urbana. This is really big. Cool. Okay, well, before we adjourn, I know we always have announcements time, and the weather, I promise that it will thaw and it will get nicer outside, and so we'll all, get to enjoy more Bike Month events and other things very soon. But does anyone have announcements or things coming up? Cynthia, sounds like you have a couple and some handouts. Thank you. This is the Traffic Skills 101 training event.
Oh, hopefully we can easily pull up my stuff here again. Dee-dum-dum-dum. There it is.
Oh,
Yay.
there we go. Okay.
So I have two things I was going to talk about. One is we're working on an open streets event, and this is a flyer that was put together. There's a partnership, and the list of the organizations is down below. We try and explain what open streets are. We've got a date, June 27th, from 11 to 2. We have a route, and in Urbana it goes down Nevada from Lincoln over to Matthews, and it also goes up then on, I'm having trouble remembering which street that is. Gregory. Thank you, Gregory. It's always very confusing because there's more than one Gregory on campus, and they go different ways. But in Urbana, it's a north-south street. And that's where we have some businesses on campus, is JSM Development, and so we were trying to pull in some business activity there. It'll go across the quad and then up and down Green Street, and Neutral Cycle is just off of Green Street, and he had talked to the other business owners in Champaign along Green Street, and they were very excited about this opportunity. So here's a list of the organizations that have been at the table working on this. It's really a health-focused event, and to help people think about how we can use our streets for active transportation. And so we shut the streets down, and you schedule a variety of activities. And there are some films. I could pull up a short video. There's a really fun one out of Minneapolis that I pulled up today and showed people that explains how they work, and they have different kinds of demonstrations, yoga, dancing, what other? Climbing walls,
Okay.
dancing, all kinds of fun stuff that can go on. I had the opportunity to participate. I was at a conference in Los Angeles, and they had what they call Cyclovia, and I had no idea how huge an event that was. There were thousands of people out, and it was a huge event, and you don't think of LA as a place where they close down the streets and invite thousands of pedestrians and bicyclists to come out. So that we do not currently have funding, and so we will be working on raising money because it will not be free to do all of this. We have to pay for help from law enforcement and various other entities. Is there anything else you want to add about our, there are things that you have to overcome in order to make these events work. I could quickly pull that video up if it's not a very long one. Do you all want to see it? Minneapolis.
Okay, yeah, if it's quick, let's.
I didn't think of doing that earlier. Oh, that isn't what I wanted. We'll just go back to this. So the idea for us is to go ahead and have this first event, and then perhaps we'll be able to expand it, maybe do it in other locations, and so that that's what we're hoping that we'll be able to do. Well, I may have to show it to you next time.
Okay.
It's not coming up on this as easily as it did on my other.
Is like the Corn Festival, is that an open street? Like, is there? Is
Well,
there
that does have that is an open street, but it's a single event. They've got activities that you're not bicycling down the street. You don't have a yoga class out doing that.
So for it to be an open street, it means that not one event is happening, but several events.
Right, and let me see if I can try this one more time. There we go. That worked much better. And they have they had a video of the business owners along the first event that they did, and their ongoing events. I also, by the way, looked up other communities that are in similar in size to us. Here it is. Evansville, Indiana has done them. There are a number of other places that have done them. And so it's not just big cities. Do we have sound on this, by the way? I guess I should have asked that question. Oh, okay. Well, it's not very interesting if you can't hear them. All right. Next time
we can look at it. Yeah. Okay.
That doesn't work
So
very
at this
well.
point, for the open streets thing, people who are interested, you're looking for more people to get interested, volunteer, and sort of help with how to plan and coordinate, right?
Right, and we'll be looking for volunteers and partners and contributions. We'll try and get something set up soon. We've got a website that'll be there's an organization in the community that I'm on the board for called Healthy Champaign County. It's a 501c3, and it's sponsored and supported through the CU Public Health District. So we have a website, and we're going to be using that for donations and other registration or whatever as we go forward, but we're in the process of getting that set up.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention was the Smart Cycling Traffic Skills 101 class, and this is a class, it's a full-day class, and there's an online component that you can actually do some of the classroom work online prior to the class, and then you have on-bike skills and riding practice that are involved. We've got 4 league cycling instructors certified in the community now, and as I mentioned earlier, we would like to have more. In order to go to the seminar to become a certified instructor, you need to go through this class successfully first, so we wanted to offer one here again. They are offered around the country and in Illinois at various locations, so if you can't come to the one on May 9th, which we're having here, and MTD is supporting with the use of their conference room, there are others that you can go to and get that certification so that you can then go on to the league cycling instructor training. There will also be league cycling instructor training in the Chicago area, I believe in April. If anybody's super eager to move forward with that very quickly, you can do that too. So there is a whole calendar of them on the League of American Bicyclists website that people can check into. But I wanted to make sure that I announced this tonight, because if we meet again in April, then it's only,
Yeah.
it's a much shorter time period, so people might not be able to get that marked on their calendars. So the other thing I was going to say quickly is that we have several bike rodeos that will be coming up, and the big community one will be at Playing It Safe, which is going to be May 30th. So we have a lot of stuff, as you hear, already going on during Bike Month, and May is National Bike Month. And Bike to School Day will be May 6th. And Bike to Work Week is the 11th through the 15th. Is that right? And National Bike to Work Day is the 15th. And Champaign County Bikes will be sort of coordinating and helping organize a calendar of events again this year. And it may be that we have audience members who would want to say more about that. But I'll just say that we'll also have Bike to Market again on Saturdays, I am sure, and a variety of other things. And I believe the theme this year, we're going to try and raise awareness of the Kickapoo Trail and opportunities for contributing to the local match. We still have significant local match that needs to be raised for the federal dollars that we were awarded. So there's still significant fundraising going on, and there are opportunities to contribute. We're hoping during Bike Month we can raise awareness and fundraising.
Okay, great. Yeah, if anybody from the audience wanted to throw in any quick announcements, maybe come up to the microphone so that, people at home could hear them. But any other announcements related to Bike and Ped?
Jeff Yockey, 304 West Washington, if that's part of it. Still basking in the glow of gold award, so echoing Cynthia and whatever everybody else has said, that's really huge. And I think I feel and others feel the weight of leadership with that. And we know we have to grow into gold. There's a lot of maturing, a lot of things we still have to do. But we have a role with the rest of our region and the state. And so feeling that a little bit. And since we want the whole state to do well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, so, and I had sent Brandon's, I'm Charlie Smythe, Urbana City Council. I sent Brandon a note, email earlier today asking to talk about this a little bit, and that's, and Cynthia's mentioned a lot of the stuff going on with Bike Month, but also talking with Natalie, Kenny Marquez about Market. It's, Market's opening up May 2nd. It's only 10 weeks away. Hard to believe. But I'd like to do something to celebrate the city getting gold. The mayor's agreed to doing something that morning. Would like some guidance from you folks, what you think would be appropriate. At the same time, it's also the kickoff for Bike Month. Probably want to do something in Urbana, Champaign, and on the university related to that in some fashion, if we can. I know there's a new market starting up in Champaign, for example, I believe on Thursdays or Tuesdays or Thursday evenings or something, So there's some multiple opportunities to get out there and promote Bike Month. One of the things that I should mention is that Bill Brown from City Council and a member of the Prairie Cycle Club board are planning going to the League of American Bicyclists Bike Summit next month. Cynthia, have you decided whether you're going or not? You're not going, or you haven't decided? You haven't decided, yeah. Okay, well, usually Cynthia goes. Okay, so they have a I met with League of American Bicyclists staff last week in D.C. Spent an hour and a half with Amelia and Andy Clark. And another woman whose name escapes me at the moment. Anyway, the issue there is that they have a new program that they're going to be pushing this year at the League of American Bicyclists, and it relates to item number 26 in the list earlier, and that's the bike crash stuff. They're basically going to adopt a Vision Zero thinking as New York City is doing. How can we get zero fatalities in all aspects of traffic, vehicular, pedestrian, bicyclists. Now, of course, New York City has a huge problem with pedestrian and bike deaths, but that Vision Zero concept is coming. There'll be some tools there that will be part of something that I think I tried already to get into the long-range transportation plan, but clearly it belongs in the next one, and probably begins with us to set that vision. And so that'll be material that they've promised to send me in advance and as
Okay.
it comes out, so that we can incorporate that into Bike Month. So
Okay.
I'll shut
Okay,
up with
cool.
that.
So May 2nd was that one key date about the first market where the
Right.
gold, we could do something to celebrate
Yeah,
gold.
and we've talked
Okay.
about having something for pedestrians, something for bicyclists, something for family bicyclists,
Yeah.
different events, scavenger hunts, some kind of a tour. We can if we do it a cross community type thing. I know Prairie Cycle Club will offer to help lead some of those rides and things like that. So,
Okay.
but ideas that people might have to get us going.
Okay,
Would
great.
it be possible for us to have one of the signs by then for gold level?
Oh, right. Yes, I meant to
Yes,
ask.
I was thinking.
Or even to have
Yeah.
Ed
Yeah, because if we
Barsati.
could like have an unveiling of the sign, so
Yeah,
that
oh, yeah.
that's something for the media, I think that would be great.
Yeah, that's a good goal. Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
take care of that.
With
Cool.
a big drape, and the mayor pulls it off.
Yeah. Last time I think we had the sign and somebody handed it to the mayor and there was a photo op kind of moment and
Ed Barsati came down.
yeah, and Ed Barsati was here to sort of help
Yeah,
present
I
it.
should also point out that Urbana jumped from bronze to gold.
Mm-hmm.
I only know one other city that did that. That was Ashland, Oregon.
Huh, interesting.
We went for the gold and we got it.
Yeah, okay. Any other announcements before Jeff?
Yeah, a couple things. I will try to get a bike map calendar sent to who? You, Brandon, and you can
Yeah,
send
if
it
you
around?
send it to me, I can distribute it, yeah.
Yeah, I should have thought to have that for everybody. Bike to Work Day is actually going to be on the 14th. It's a Thursday.
Oh,
right before
14th.
graduation. So
Okay.
works better in our community. But there are a lot of events that are going, and we do have a critical mass of bicyclists. And as Cynthia was alluding to, the thought this year, because we have over 1,000 commuters, we have all the school kids, we got all the markets. We got 2,000 people involved, and rather than for them just to be the recipients of our encouragement, we want to ask them to be contributors to what's going on. And so, I'll state it publicly here, I guess. Our plan would be that we're going to encourage people to make a donation to the trail, and you have to make a donation to get a shirt. And the shirt will have the trail logo, on it in some big way, and some
Cool.
way to say, I contributed to the trail, I helped bring it about, something. We'll have to do something a little different with the kids who get it in school, but we want to bring people saying, I can contribute, I can help. And so that's one aspect for Bike Month. And maybe I could get on the agenda for your April meeting, just to tell you a little bit more of some of the things happening with CCB. I
Mhm.
call it CCB 2.0. We're evolving as an organization. We got our 501c3 IRS letter just recently.
Congratulations.
And so we're
Yeah.
trying to move into a small but professional advocacy organization,
Cool.
and trying to up our capacity to keep up with all the exciting things that are happening. And so a part of that will be once we get our new structure in place and articulate it on the website and all that, then we can, over the summer months, add to our membership base, thus more volunteers for all the events that are happening and stuff. So
Cool.
if I could get on.
That would be great.
April?
Yeah, Femi, if you can help us put sort of a CCB update from Jeff on the April agenda, that'd
And
be
that would
excellent.
I mean, I'm using the analogy, a caterpillar to a butterfly goes in this, chrysalis phase where you're like nothing, right? You're just a mass. It feels like CCB is a little bit right there. We're doing bylaws and stuff, but by April, we want to have this sorted out so that in May, when things kick off, we're
Mhm.
a butterfly.
Very cool.
The open streets we're a part of. The Bike Summit is coming up on October 28th. I had an hour-and-a-half meeting with Ed Barsati as we were thinking about program and training. And so, Craig, I should visit with you. We're trying to figure out what level of training we want to provide for planners and engineers. Obviously for our community to benefit, but also statewide. So it could be NACTO training, and whether it's a half day or a full day. The Bike Summit has actually doubled every year we've had it. So we've gone from 65 to 125 to well over 300. We're going to cap this one at 600. It's at the
Wow.
iHotel in town. And so one opportunity is for Champaign-Urbana and the U of I to say, how much can we get out of this? Is there places where we can partner? Is there somebody that you would love to see, a national leader that we can think about inviting into the program and having here? And if they're already coming, ask them to come half day early and spend the day before the summit with you, something like that.
Mhm.
So that can happen on several different levels. So now's the time to give me input on your programming ideas.
Great.
Because we're going to be making a lot of invitations, and it's kind of exciting. Oh boy. I'll just say one last thing is we've had some partnerships this last semester with the U of I in terms of students doing projects on bike sharing, bike rentals, helping evaluate our bike census program on campus, and those have been great projects. They do lit reviews. They come up with some good ideas. We get to work, side by side, and want to do more of that coming up. And so there is a chance to do more bike counting work, and particularly while we're counting all the bikes on campus, we want to count the commuters coming in the corridors, and that's a great chance to do some gender counting. And we used ArcGIS software. It's an app that we put on over 100 students' smartphones. It's free. They go out, they collected all the data using their smartphones, loaded it up through the cloud right onto our servers, and it was just really neat. And so some of the students' projects, as they were evaluating and looking around the country about what's possible, gave me some good ideas of what to do next. So
Cool.
So anyway, we're going to ask for make this internship program a part of what CCB does, and then when you got those kind of resources available, we can do more counts. That's another source of volunteers, and it's research, and it's good partnership. So
That's great.
see if we can't work with you on those kind of things.
And Jeff, would there be a possibility that we could have some maybe student come and present to BPAC and maybe
Oh yeah.
present what they found?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, that would be interesting to hear. I think.
Yeah, that might be good for April or May or something like before, especially if it's end of semester and things get to a good stopping point for if stuff's happening this semester. Yeah, let us know when it'd be
Okay.
good to have a presentation.
I'll make a note of it.
That's
Thank you.
great. Okay, any other final announcements, dates we should save? Craig?
Yeah, just a brief update. I've talked to Regional Plan Commission. They're finaling the draft on the master plan. We haven't seen it yet, yet at all. But so that'll be coming, here this spring too.
Okay.
So
So we'll have a busy next few months.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So something to
Cool.
look forward to.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good problem to have. Is too much good stuff on our agenda is good. So, yeah. Okay, well, with that, thank you all very much, and I will declare this meeting of our commission adjourned. Have a good evening.